You grow up in a world of not being able to read and write. You grow up in a world where you're told that you're a failure, that you're not very, very good in a school environment. You don't socialize properly, you say stupid things. That's why I then wrote the book, to cover off both sides, to show that the positives and the negatives are very, very real.
How can you help us, though, continue to help you? First, please subscribe to the channel. Like us. If you listen to the audio version, leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you see our posts, please share those posts, share the content, and link back to our law firm website, which helps us to continue our SEO marketing and grow our firm and help small business owners. All right, everyone, welcome back to another show. I'm Mitch Beinhaker, your host. Thanks for tuning in to The Accidental Entrepreneur. If you're listening on one of your favorite directories and you can leave us a review, please leave us a 5-star review. We're doing more and more and more video content, building up the YouTube channel. So if you can get to the channel, you can watch the show, subscribe, like us, share the show, so we can keep connecting with people, in this case, down under. So John is on the other side of the world, which is amazing when it comes to Zoom and all these different things. We're on Riverside FM, and we're going to talk to him. I remind everybody that these episodes are for entertainment purposes only. It's not a guarantee of success of any kind. If you're listening to things that John brings up, that I bring up, that we discuss, don't make any decisions without talking with local licensed professionals before doing so. So John, now you in Australia or New Zealand?
Yeah, Melbourne, Australia.
Melbourne, okay. All right, great. So I think my daughter is going to go overseas next year and study in New Zealand and Australia. Mostly Sydney. Sydney's on the other side, right?
Yeah, New Zealand's probably 4 hours from here, and it's amazing. It's like Switzerland, but very small. Beautiful,
nice.
Really.
Well, then we're gonna have to come visit. Maybe I'll look you up because we're gonna
definitely
come visit.
But it's a long flight.
I know. My wife went there a couple of years ago. It was like, what, 17, 18 hours, something like that?
Yeah, from LA, it's about 17 hours nonstop.
Yeah, and we're in New York, so you had another 5 or 6 hours to that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't you tell your story? Go back and tell your story. I'll interrupt you, ask any questions as we go.
Yeah, well, the reason we're here is I've just written a book, but we'll get into that in a bit later.
Definitely.
But it's about ADHD and dyslexia, and I think one of the things that's really interesting is some of the statistics around ADHD and dyslexia in business. If you look at the entrepreneurs that have been successful, the ones that we hear about, Virgin, Richard Branson, and so forth, they're very, very dyslexic. So around about 35% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic or ADHD. It's really quite a large number. Now, that in essence, from the education system, we're all failures and got kicked out of school early, and life is, you're meant to go dig a hole and work in a trade, which is nothing wrong with it. In fact, tradies these days get paid more than probably a lot of the doctors. But
right.
and so, being an electrician into the future with AI and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can start plumbing in your house and you need electrical. Yeah, that's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Make your job easier, right?
Yeah, and not a thing that robots are going to be able to do, and that's the big thing. Elon Musk, and again, Elon Musk, dyslexic. And ADHD. And I know a lot of people claim that they're ADHD, but the dyslexic side is the really interesting part of it. That's that abstract. NASA employs a whole lot of dyslexic people so they could be thinking outside the box.
And John, there are different kinds of dyslexia, right? Everybody thinks of dyslexia where you're switching words or switching letters. It's not always like that, right?
No, well, dyslexic means difficulty with English. That's the term for it. But that is one component of it. You switch words. You might read the same sentences 2 or 3 times. You'll fill things in. But what's actually happening is that you've got a whole lot of windows that are open simultaneously. So like think of a software sort of program, and there's all these windows open, and they're all talking to each other, and they're all fighting over trying to get your attention.
Right, a lot of noise.
But then it's very, very abstract. So you're thinking on probably, the way I think of it is like a car park. That you're on all these different levels and you're going from one level to another. And so it can be very confusing, can be very draining emotionally on your thought processes, but it also means that you can be very lateral if you learn to control it. And so you can see things that other people can't see sometimes. You look at, and this is the problem solving. The really great example of a dyslexic is, and for the American audience, is you won the America's Cup, which is a sailing race, 120 years in a row.
Has
Never
it
been
been?
beaten.
We've never been beaten.
Well, you got beaten by the Australians, and and the reason you got beaten was this dyslexic boat builder designed the wing keel, and the wing keel now everything is on the wing keel, but he designed the wing keel. It was a private thing, and he had the wing keel underneath the boat, and it raised the boat by that much out of the water, which meant there was less friction. And so therefore we beat the Americans at their own game after that because of the wing keel. Now all boats, you know, sailing equipment, everything's on a wing keel, surfboards, the whole lot. So, you know, there's an example of a guy going, well, how could I think outside the box? A normal person would not put a wing on the bottom of a boat and think it's going to improve its drag. That's a dyslexic thought process. That sort of sums it up in essence. For 128 years, someone's been doing it exactly the same way. This guy comes into it, kicked out of school at 12, and goes, well, why don't we do it this way?
Right.
And
Okay.
that's the beauty of it. So in business, that's been, you know, both fantastic and also not fantastic. So the fantastic side of it is I first wrote a book back in the 80s on dyslexia and called How Do We Learn? And I really wanted to turn that into an animation film, and I wanted to make it, you know, really explain and to articulate how it felt to have this brain that you couldn't sort of put into words, but as an animation film, you could, you know, like cartoons, you could blow it up and you could make it all, you know, like the flip top head and sort of like things like that.
Exactly.
And I took it to Richard Pratt, who is a very, very wealthy entrepreneur here in Australia, who had busy industry. It's now in the US. It's the largest recycling business in the world. He's passed away, but I presented this idea to him, and he said, John, I really like the concept, going into the education system, teaching people. He said, but I really don't care too much about dyslexics. He said, but would you do it for would you do it for the environment? And I just said straight away, instantly, not even a beat. And I'd done 12 months of work to get this pitch to him and to do it. And within, you know, 1 second, I'm going, yeah, I can do it for the environment. And I built an environmental educational program around the 3 R's: recycling, reduce, reuse. And it's now still used in schools. And that was in the 80s, I developed that. And so it's still in schools today. So that was my first entrepreneurial business that I ever went into. I had no idea about animation. I had no idea about making films. I had no idea about any of that. The internet was just starting. It was still in the days when TVs were being wheeled around from room to room. And VHS.
Right, I remember that.
We remember that.
Yeah, the AV card with the little thing.
Yeah.
So John, so you wanted to do an animated movie based on your book, but he liked the idea of the animation approach, but he wanted you to do it on a different topic.
Yeah, and he just said straight away. So a lot of people, without sort of the abstract thinking processes that I had, would have gone, no, I'll stick to the vertical, and I'll just do that. And so that, you know, that's that abstract where you can go very quickly, you can change very quickly. So in business, I can make decisions very, very fast. I don't get hung up on a decision. You know, I sort of have this 3-month horizon sort of scenario. If it's not working in 3 months, then it's not going to work.
Okay,
You know,
so you move on.
A lot of people will beat themselves up, and they'll do it, you know, 18 months later, they're still trying to work out how to do it. You know, 3 months is a long time if you can't get something to work.
Right, especially if you're giving it your all, you know, due attention for 3 months. That's,
Yeah. So then after that, I went and worked in the insurance industry, which is completely abstract, but I worked for a large actuarial firm in the sales department. And the internet was starting. I was really interested in the internet, you know, from dealing with fax machines and, you know, secretaries and all that sort of stuff. It was going to be a lot more self-sufficient. And I ended up going to an insurance broker that had software that allowed it to quote against, you know, 10 different insurance products, and that was quite new in its day. And I wanted to take that business online, so I put together a business proposal. We pitched it to a VC. The VC came in, and I owned 30% of it at that stage, just the concept. The VC came in, and typical to the VC, they said, yeah, we'll put $2 million into it, but John can only have 2%.
Right.
And you know, it's the typical thing. Well, let's just rape and pillage everyone. You know,
Right,
let's,
of course.
let's let them know very early on what's going to happen to them down the
And
track.
this was basically like an online brokerage.
It was an online broker. Yeah,
Okay.
but you're talking back in the
Yeah. What year
90s,
was this?
late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, because I
So
don't think I really knew what the internet was till like 92. Never
yeah,
heard of it in the United
yeah.
States.
Well, I was right into it very early on.
Got it.
Um,
Okay.
and yeah, so I got offended by that and said, no, I'm not going to do it. And I went off and did it on my
Right.
own. And I
Okay.
raised the first, you know, from 2 million, having a check of 2 million in the boardroom, he's going, yeah. I left and said, no, I'm going to do it myself. I raised 10,000, and then another 10,000, another 10,000, and so on.
Right.
And I ended up building a thing called InchCorp. And InchCorp
Okay.
was the first online financial planning company in Australia, and probably the world, but definitely in Australia.
Right.
And we were doing lead generation and writing insurance all online, not actually meeting with a client. Anyway, I got into a little bit of trouble with ASIC here in Australia about that because they
What's that?
said
Is
that
that one of the securities
Australian
boards?
Investment Commission, Securities Commission,
Got it.
so like
Okay.
your FINRA or
Yeah.
the SEC, and they said that I was breaking the law because I wasn't knowing the client. And they had interpreted knowing the client meant you had to sit down with the client.
Meet them in
But it
person.
never
Right.
said, but it never said that in any of the documents. It never said you
Right.
had to
That was their
physically sit.
interpretation. Well, that's what happens
That
with
was their,
regulations.
yeah. And so we had these massive arguments and compliance officers all trying to, you know,
Yeah.
flex their muscle with who was the smartest in the room and all that sort of stuff.
Right. Of course.
And the
And
government
John,
doesn't like it.
John, how old were you at this point?
I was 29.
Oh, so well, you weren't that young, but yeah, okay, so fine. So you got all these guys think they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and I was just winging it. I was completely out of my depth and had no idea. I guess the concept didn't make any sense to me. It
Right.
didn't say you had to meet the
Right.
client.
You're
It
like,
said you had to
why?
know the
Right.
client.
But at
And
the
so
end of the
you
day,
might,
the securities commission's got to make the rules, right? If that's what they say, it's hard to
well,
fight
yeah,
them.
and I think that they were going to even try and change the rule to actually block me.
Yeah.
But they ended up just going into ether and nothing really happened about it. I then signed up H&R Block, and
Yep.
H&R Block didn't even have computers, so they
It
had
was
no
all by hand,
computers.
right?
They were really, they were fax machine. That was it, and that's the fax machine. So I had an online business, and then I had H&R Block. So I think I had a bank of like 10 fax machines. And in the first year with H&R Block, I wrote, I think it was 800 financial plans with 2 staff.
Where they would just order them online and then you would fax it.
Yep, fax it back. We would they would send it in a fax. We would
To the
do it. I
insurance
would do it on the
company, right?
computer. We'd print it all out, and then I would fax it back to them.
Got it. So they would put the order in on the computer. You would get it. You'd print it out. You'd finish it up, and then you'd send it back to them on a fax.
On a fax.
And then once they signed it, then you could send it out to the insurance
We
company.
basically then got on the phone, and it was all phone based. It was a
Right.
phone based financial planning. Never met any client in that whole 4 or 5 years of doing it. Not one
And
client
you
came
spoke
our
to them,
office.
but you didn't meet them in person.
No, we spoke to them, but we didn't meet them.
Right.
And we were doing them all over Australia. Now, a normal financial planner probably could max maybe 100 clients at max. You know, because it's a very time consuming sort of thing.
Yeah, you got to service all these clients.
Yeah, so I outsourced all of the financial planning back end paperwork, so we didn't do any of that. So we would bring the data, collect the data, send it off to a group that had a big warehouse of people doing this sort of stuff. They would then charge me, I think it was $600 for the plan to be developed and stuff. Bring it back to me. We would, you know, top and tail it with our letterhead, and then we would send it off. And we were averaging around about $98,000 deposit per financial plan. And people thought that I was crazy, but that was about 10 grand below the average. And I was doing it with people that paid $50 for a tax return.
Right. Yeah, no,
It was,
crazy.
it was, yeah, and it was just thinking outside that box. I ended up selling that business to a bank here in Australia, and I then started working for the bank, and that was pretty much the experience of downhill in my business because
Yeah,
going
once the big company took over, it goes downhill, right?
they just imploded it. I just
Right.
couldn't. They couldn't fathom the fact that they could do it differently, and they kept
Right.
trying to do it their old way,
Right.
and
And it didn't work.
it,
Well,
it didn't
John,
work.
what were they buying? Were they buying the website? Were they buying, I mean, were they buy your 10 fax machines and the website and then you?
Yeah, it was me. It was me
Yeah.
and the staff and the concept, and they loved it. When they put the pilot into the bank and did a test of it, the marketing guy said it was the best response they'd had on any product ever in the history of the bank, and yet they couldn't make it work.
And this was to sell, you were like their insurance and financial
Yeah,
planning division now?
yeah, yeah. And basically, it was lead generation, if you put it down to it, because they had all the financial planners, they had all the para planners, they
Right.
had
They would do
everything,
it. Right. They
and they
just
would
needed to
do
get
it.
more people. They needed more customers.
Yeah, and I was giving them these customers, but then they just tried to make it traditional, and the customer didn't want to be. They didn't want to come into the office
Right.
and
The people
have
that were
somebody
doing
come
this
in
are
there.
people that didn't want to come to the office. They wanted to do it online.
And
So
then
you were gathering assets under management and you were selling insurance products.
yes, and
Got it.
wills, health insurance, doing the whole lot. I did the whole spectrum, so
Got it.
everything, you know,
Got it.
and some of it was a throwaway stuff like wills, you know, the general insurance, car, health.
Yeah, so
I
here you
saw it
can't do
all.
wills unless you're a lawyer. The insurance financial guys can't do that kind of stuff here. And I don't think you really could do things online until, I mean, you could do a little bit of it online, but it wasn't really online until the pandemic hit and it forced everybody to go online. And now everything's electronic now. There's no
Wow,
paper.
look at that. I know the banking system in the US is terrible compared to ours. It's really
Yeah,
bad.
they really didn't allow, they didn't go really allow for electronic signatures and things like that until the pandemic hit. I mean, some did it, the more progressive companies, but there was difficult, the security side is still difficult knowing your client and client suitability and everything like that. So,
Where in fact, look at this conversation here now.
yeah,
You could have this privately, and you could say that
yeah,
I said this and I said that. Here, it's all recorded,
right.
and you can't.
It's even more
It's
secure.
better. It's more
Yeah,
secure.
right.
It's absolutely.
And it's not, we're
It's
not
like,
seeing each other. We're seeing each other. We're talking, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're on the other side of the world. I could still be signing paper, and you could see me sit here
exactly.
and sign it. This shows how archaic we really are in regards to keeping up, and you can see why some people just leapfrog ahead very, very quickly because they
Right,
don't have those barriers
right.
um, to
So
things.
then what happened? You
So,
left the bank because it was failing and
well,
they wouldn't
no, I
listen to
sat
you?
in the bank, and they hadn't, and I was a senior executive at the bank, and I often look back and go, I wonder if I had stayed there, how different my life would have been, and so forth. So they sat me in the bank, and I was on the top floor with all the executives. I hated absolutely every minute of it. It was horrendous. It was going into meetings, and you had to take everyone on the journey, and people would make these stupid comments, and it would take months for anything to happen, and I was just going insane.
Yeah.
So I developed. I thought, what can I do to keep myself entertained here? So I ended up developing a program back in this is again the internet. Websites back then were anything from 150,000 to 30,000 and so forth. So they're very expensive. So the guy that had the local bike shop or the Bendigo Bank customer, which were the small businesses, couldn't afford to do websites. So it
Right.
wasn't. So I developed a program and got the bank to fund me to build a platform that would allow me to punch out websites for like $500, which is
This is
common
like
today.
Wix, one of the
Yeah,
early, right?
yeah, which you can do today
Right.
easily. You don't even
Yeah.
need Wix. With AI, it basically goes off and does it all for
Right.
you.
It does it for you.
So
Right. Exactly.
when we had built that, and I think the budget was 120 grand to build it, and we pumped it out. I would go around to all of and so my business philosophy with that was, we're going to get the customer to stick. We don't care about the website. We don't care about their selling stuff on the website, because a sandwich board on the street would be so much better than a website for a small shop. But what we're going to do is we're going to link their payment gateway to the website. So therefore we lock in the customer to the bank so they can't go and use somebody else.
Right. The bank would provide the merchant services to do the
That's
credit
right,
card.
and that was the philosophy behind it, and the bank loved it, thought it was absolutely fantastic. And again, I think in the first year we did something like 1,500 websites, and I had bank tellers. I took bank tellers out of the bank to come and do the website designs for me. So I had these 3 girls, and they loved it because they were coming off from being a teller, into being little entrepreneurs and talking to businesses and going out and having lunches, and they thought it was the best world.
John, you don't have a programming background, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, so what made you think? So we're in an era where website programming is very difficult and very expensive, right? Only the smartest guys do it. You couldn't just go to like Wix like you can now, or tell AI to build it for you, and great. What made you think that with $120,000 you could create a platform, a website where somebody can build their own website for $500?
Well, we built. So what I did was it's the way that a dyslexic brain works is you say this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
You articulate how you're going to what the rules are for that, and then you just go get someone else to do it. I didn't do it at all. So
No, I know that. Yeah.
But I went to 3 programming companies, and they all pitched for it. And basically, I don't think that they actually understood what they were pitching for. We got into a lot of trouble because it was like, oh yeah, just build these websites and just punch them all out, and it was all modular. So there was no choice. It wasn't like today we had an enormous amount of choice. It was sort of like, it was like black or blue. It was not, there was no, you can have all these things. It was pretty simple, basic website.
Right.
But I didn't think there was anything. I just thought it was like me. I don't know anything about cars, but I take my car to a mechanic.
Yeah, so you figured, well, it's just programming. They must be able to do it.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and I didn't think anything of it. And they did do it. It was not as simple as I thought it was going to be, and it took us probably 3 times longer. So instead of it being a 2-3 months project, I think it took us like almost a year to build it out, which was causing me an enormous amount of stress because, every time I go back to the board, I have to go back to the committee and tell them, oh, it's been delayed, and I didn't really understand. It's a bit like me talking about about the car. I didn't really know what had gone wrong, but I was sort of articulating it, that this is what's happening, because they were struggling because no one had ever built it before. And so
and you needed, just to break even, you needed to sell 250,000 websites.
Oh yeah, but it wasn't even a break-even business. It wasn't even a break-even business opportunity. It was just grabbing the banking. So it was
just to gather. It was a loss leader to get customers.
It was a loss leader, and that's the way I presented it to the bank. You're never going to lose the customer. And my philosophy was, I had 3 bank accounts, 3 different banks, and that was my philosophy. I had banks, from different relationships. I had different, banking. And I said, the person that hangs on to the banking relationship through the business is the one that's going to keep the customer. Right. And it ended up being completely right. I left the bank after 2 years, and then I went out and set up I brought Saxo Bank from, which is not sure if you guys have Saxo Bank in the US, but it's a very, very large broking platform that allowed you to trade on 32 exchanges around the world simultaneously.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It could do futures and options, CFDs, which is contracts for difference, which is like a leveraged product on stocks.
Okay.
It had 120 crosses in currency. You could do multiple currencies, and it was all in one platform. And I brought that to Australia. The licensing fee was like 250,000, and I said to them, I don't have 250,000 to pay for a licensing fee. One, I had no idea about stockbroking either, so I wasn't a stockbroker.
Right.
And so you're sitting there going, well, what's he doing?
And that never stopped you, right?
No, it was just software. I was bringing it in, and you put a person in, and I hired the staff. I hired the brokers, and you got and I got a license. I got a securities license.
You
had our own, and we had to have it for foreign exchange and futures. It was like the top end. If you think of stockbrokers, that's sort of the bottom end of securities licenses. We had to go all the way to the top. But I just employed the staff and brought those on, and anyway, we built that up to about 4,500 clients. And then the GFC came in, and the business basically went from doing, I think, around about $300,000-400,000 a month to 10 grand. And
Because they
basically,
limited everything.
yeah, well, we were like the canary in the, in the mine. The
Yeah.
stock market, crashed, and no one was trading, but basically I did a trade sale of that business back to Saxo, and they took it on, and had the might to be able to withstand the downturn, and it's now probably one of the largest stockbrokers in Australia.
Oh, well, okay, because they had a bigger company behind it. It was just you.
Yeah, they had all the grunt, and they could weather the storms.
Right. So
but
where'd
actually,
you go from there?
From there, I sort of did a whole lot of consulting work. I went into, I took the family, went to the Middle East, to Indonesia.
Uh-huh.
I did some consulting there. I set up an FX business there, which never really got anywhere because of the corruption, and it was all very, very difficult to do business in Indonesia. You really had to have extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Extremely difficult.
You got to be corrupt.
Easy,
You got to pay people off.
like just corruption like you wouldn't believe. Like, clients, staff would be stealing clients' money, right? It was because you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
No care. And so from there, I sort of did consultancy worked for some mining companies and did some stuff, and then more recently, I'm the CEO and chairman of a company in the US, which is publicly traded, called SIO, and we've bought a number of businesses. I did a crypto lending business in there, which I've sold. So I was one of the first crypto lenders in Australia where we did, and the crypto lending business was very successful because we were taking the crypto asset, lending cash, but what I was doing is I was putting a put and a call on either end of the contract. So it didn't matter if it went down or it went up. The client would never lose their money.
Protected, right? It was a straddle.
Protected.
So you lent. So it was like a margin account, right? You were giving them money against their crypto. They're leveraging their crypto account.
Yeah. But I was the only one that was putting a put and call on it. And the really speculative guys, the guys that it was always going up, they didn't like it, because when you have the top end, there's a limit.
Right.
So if you go over that, then you start giving away your profit. But the bigger players really loved it, and when they all exploded, the lenders, because of their margins, they were doing, and I'd only do 50% margin, LVR, so lending to volume ratio. So, but the others were doing 70, 75, and as soon as the market came in and moved, they all got crushed, and they hundreds of millions of dollars were wiped off the lenders, and they all went broke. And they were all, they were all talking that they were looking after their client and doing the right thing. It was just it was very sad to see, these people lose their assets when they really didn't need to lose them. Because if it had been a 50% margin, they could have just walked, basically sold out and got their asset back.
Well, John, that's the thing, and I don't want to criticize like the financial world, at least in the United States, but a lot of these guys on Wall Street, they don't care whether it busts or not. They make their money, they push the product, they want it to be as aggressive as they can, they'll take it, chop it up, mix it up, put these things together, sell it to people. The people who invest in it lose their money, right? And they don't care. Yeah, there's no...
The other thing, especially with the cryptos, people didn't understand, is when you handed that over to a lender, you no longer owned it. It wasn't yours.
Right. Yeah.
And they could do whatever they wanted with it.
You could, right.
And that's exactly what they did.
Right.
You were giving your money like a home loan. You don't own the home. The bank owns the home. You're paying them a fee to hopefully one day end up owning it. But they own it. And in Australia, you can't walk out of a home like you can in the US. Like you owe that bank regardless of what happens to the property.
Yeah, in the United States, it's very different. It's very situational. It depends on the state in which you're in. Some of them are very hard to foreclose. It's often a separate action. So you sue them to get the house back, but then you got to sue it, for a deficiency. A lot of times the banks don't do it. They figured, well, listen, if if you defaulted on your mortgage and you walked away from your house, you probably don't have much of anything anyway. So what we're going to bother, doing that stuff.
Yeah, well,
So
in Australia, you're tied to that loan indefinitely,
yeah,
regardless, and they'll foreclose the house, sell it, and whatever the difference is, you still owe the bank.
yeah,
And that's why the banks here are probably one of the most profitable banks in the world. And you're talking about the most profitable on what 25, 26 million people.
right.
It's the fees that they charge here and the way in which the banking system and the financial institutions here, it's almost criminal the way they operate.
Do they?
But yeah, but the same with the supermarkets, exactly the same. There's a
What do you
monopoly
mean?
here. Well, there's a monopoly here in banking. There's 4 banks that
That's
basically
it?
run the whole bank. Yep, 4 banks.
Okay.
There's not like you guys. We have all these little family banks and private.
Yeah, we got
banks.
credit unions. We got all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
We've got credit unions, but their representation is so tiny. You're talking the population of Florida, so
Right.
you've got a teachers credit union.
Right. How many members can they have? Right?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And then you've got the police credit union and the fire brigade. The New York Fire Brigade could take on the Australian Army.
So you're saying that there was like 4 major banks, like that's it,
Well, that's it.
right? And we have a
And there's-
lot.
Yeah, and we have 2 supermarkets.
2 supermarkets in the whole country.
Well, you have the little ones, but there's 2 major ones, right? And then we have Aldi, but there might be
Oh,
in
look
the
at
whole of
Aldi.
Australia there might be 10 Audis, at max. And so we
not
Costa.
only have Aldi, we have Lidl, that's like owned by the same parent company, and then
Yeah.
we have Trader Joe's. They're all over the place. You could walk 3 blocks and you get to another supermarket here.
When I was in Florida, I spent a lot of time in Florida and Miami. There's Pilkingtons and there's supermarkets everywhere, and they're not
Yeah.
small.
No, they're big. Yeah.
Your Target has a supermarket in it.
Yeah, now it does. It does. It's got a huge supermarket. And then you have things like the big ones like Costco and BJ's. They're these warehouses where you go and you buy jars of peanut butter so big you can fit your small children in them. People buy this
we
stuff.
we don't have anything like that at all. But it's very much a monopoly. So
Yeah. The
and
price
I'm sure
control.
they talk to
Yeah.
each other and they control all the pricing. So
Yeah.
here we are spending
Crazy.
an absolute fortune on fuel's very expensive, banking's very expensive, supermarkets are a gouge. Like it's insanity what we pay for food, and
Yeah.
we're one of the largest taxed countries in the world.
In terms of the tax level, the percentage
It's 50 cents on the dollar.
for everyone.
Well, if you're over $120,000 a year, you're pretty much 50 cents.
Which is a lot of people.
This podcast is brought to you by our affiliate sponsor, iEmployee. iEmployee is a virtual assistant service that hires almost anyone for any role in your company right out of the Philippines. Most roles range from $7 to $9 an hour for highly skilled and experienced VAs. And whether you need an executive assistant, social media manager, video editor, customer service, sales, you name it, they have it. We use iEmployee for our VA services, from editing and promoting the podcast to all the PR and promotion of our law firm. iEmployee acts as a virtual field supervisor on the back end with live video monitoring and reports on a daily basis with screenshots of your VA's workday, and along with complete HR and payroll duties. No more paying for overpriced and underqualified workers. There's a link in the show notes to get a 1-week free trial, and I encourage you to take advantage of it. Maybe you're getting your calendaring from one software and you're invoicing from another. Evenoo is a platform that we use as one of our sponsors to run our entire business. And there's other features like auto payments and integrations with QuickBooks. Visit evenoo.com, EVONUE.com to learn more. There's also a link in the show notes. And be sure to tell them that the Accidental Entrepreneur referred you.
I mean, you could be a business owner doing $500,000, $700,000, $800,000 of gross revenue, and your own taxes are maybe 30%.
Well, that's company tax is 30%, and then you give it to the individual.
They get
50%.
taxed too. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's 70% in tax.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, that's crazy. It's hard enough paying the bills.
Yeah. And we don't make anything in Australia.
Right, it's all imported, right?
No, well, no, it's exported. So this is the craziest thing about our government is we've got the largest deposits of uranium, gold, oil, all the precious metals. We've got it all. We've got the
Yeah.
big farming. We've got all of this stuff. Yet we don't produce. We don't produce anything in the country. We
So
don't.
what
We don't own a smelter. We don't own any plants to do anything. We don't do
they
anything.
don't
We
drill for
send
the
it all
oil
away.
or whatever? It just sits
We
there?
send it all away, and we bring it all back because the government lives in this world of the old English model. You know, basically don't build anything, just go off and get someone else to do it, and then bring it back. So chipboard. You know, chipboard, which is a pretty basic thing. It's glue and bits of chip. You know,
Yeah,
timber.
press board. Right.
Pressboard, yeah, pressboard, yeah. We
Same
call
stuff.
it chipboard. Yeah,
Chipboard.
right.
Okay.
Cheap, nasty stuff. We cut the trees down here, chip it, then we send the chips to China. They put the glue and heat and send it back to us, and we buy it back as board.
You don't make it there?
We don't make it. We don't make anything here.
So you basically you'll mine the raw materials and take those out of the ground, whatever,
Bring them, ship
and
them
then
off.
you ship it away.
Yeah. Because
That's
it's too
fine.
expensive. Because
To make
the
it here.
cost
It's
of
cheaper to
food-
send it to China and buy it back.
Right, because it's too expensive because of the food and the way we live and the lifestyle we live. It's a very, very expensive country.
Got it. Is there any incentives if people move from the U.S. to New Zealand or Australia? They like pay you money because they're like, no, we don't need you. Everything's too expensive
No,
already.
we have a very strict immigration, and it's a long. You know, like personally, I think if you can make it to Australia on a small boat, they should give you $100,000. You know?
Yeah,
You've gone a long way. You've been 3 months
long
out in the
way.
middle.
A
You know, it's not
very
like
long way.
going
So
across the border from Mexico.
there's a question I was going to ask you. Oh, everything you've done is kind of financial related, and I think it's interesting because I don't have a lot of financial guys on the show, but the financial planners are really just salespeople. Like they don't think in terms of the way you think from a business standpoint. What made you go work for a mining company? Like where did that come in?
Oh, that was a pretty wild experience. In fact, I was in. It wasn't just a mining company. It was an Indonesian mining company that was getting the tantalite, the offcuts of all of the mine. You know, the stuff, all the I can't remember what it's called, but basically all the slush that they use and they put it down into the river, and they had
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But they needed someone to go into the mountains to speak to the local tribes people.
Okay.
And, yeah, right. So and I used to be an outdoor instructor before I got into business. So skiing, rock climbing, bushwalking, and I've got a real love of that outdoor stuff. And so I've lived with the Aboriginals. I've done a whole lot of stuff in that area. And I was in this meeting, and they said, "Oh, look, the guy that was going to do it doesn't want to go." And I said, "I'll go."
What
So
were
I
you,
flew
an
in-
executive though in the company or no?
Yeah, I was an exec in the
Okay.
company. And they're going, okay. I'm going, okay. Anyway, I just thought it was going to be a great adventure. Well, it did turn out to be a great adventure. I never actually got into where I was meant to go after a month. I went to Papua New Guinea. Now, you're
Yeah.
talking about it's the Wild West.
Yeah, no,
But
you're
it's
talking
also
very, very primitive, right?
massively primitive, but massive amount of wealth. So you're talking about the biggest mining companies in the world are there. In fact, the largest mine, a US Canadian mine, is there. It's the ruggedest country. People still
Yeah.
walking around with loincloths and in the nude, and
Yeah.
they chew the coca thing, which is that orange stuff, and spitting it all over the ground. But very wild. Like I opened the door to a cab once and had no back seats.
How do you sit
Like,
in it?
You don't. There was a local. I didn't
Like
realise.
kneel
It was
on your
gonna be-
knees, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I was on this small plane, and we're on the runway. It's hot as hell. We bribed our way to get onto the plane with my interpreter,
Yeah.
who was a religious Catholic sort of guy, and very, very religious. And we're on the plane, and we're taxiing down, and I'm not with no seats. I'm standing, and I'm hanging on to the netting surrounding all of the goods and services and stuff that we were taking, which was basically bribes. And we're down the end of the runway, And he turns around and he's sitting there, we're sitting there, and I just remember, just at this stage, I'm completely wet. Yeah, I'm in sweat.
It's hot. Right.
Really hot, and you're in this little tin can. Anyway, we're sitting there for about 10 minutes, and then he just starts taxiing back to the terminal. And then they're chatting away, and he goes, oh yeah, no, the locals don't want you to come up. They've put cattle on the runway, so you wouldn't be able to land.
Over where you were going to.
Yeah, because they didn't want the mine to come in. So I spent a month there trying to get in, and I couldn't get in. So that was a bit of a wild experience. And
Yeah,
I think
so if the
they're
guy
still
flew up
trying.
there and he couldn't land, he'd run out of gas. He couldn't come back.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
we never even got to take off. And I went to try and work out whether I could walk in, and they said it'd be too dangerous. You might not come out alive, and I didn't think it was going to risk that much. So
Yeah, death would not be something that would be
yeah,
in
it
a
was
job
not
description.
not for the mining, not for an Indonesian mining
Right.
company, which is probably
Sure.
corrupt anyway.
Right, exactly. Probably is. All right, so take us along the story. So where are we now? You were
So now I'm uh, in the US with
right with the
Cycle.
the okay. And then did you live
So
in the
we
US?
buy health. We buy health. We've bought a health business called Noir. I bought that 2 or 3 years ago. We've taken that from 4 million in revenue to about 12 million in revenue.
What do they do?
They're medical supplies. So
Like durable medical supplies to hospitals and doctors and things like that?
yeah, which is a really interesting. It's an arbitrage. It's a very interesting. As much as people think it's not financial, it's actually a financial transaction. So let's say the big players, the big, Johnson Johnson, whoever it might be,
Yeah.
are wanting to buy gloves or bed
Okay.
linen or whatever it is they want to buy.
Right.
And they set a price, let's just say gloves. They set a price, they wanted 10 cents. And the manufacturer in China or wherever they're getting it made, Turkey, wherever they're getting it made, it says, well, yeah, we'll do that, but you have to order 50,000 of them. But they only want 10,000.
Okay.
So what they'll do is they'll buy the 50, they get their price. Now the other 40, they sell to companies like us. So as long as they get the 10 cents or more, they made a profit on it. But they're
And you get
selling
so you're like the secondary market.
exactly, which is basically an arbitrage, and then you basically take that and you're selling it back to the same people they're selling it to, just at a different
Right.
price.
Right.
And
At a lower
so
price. And you still make money.
lower price. And it's a great business model because the money turns over every 3 weeks to a month. So you can recycle the funds quite easily. So it's a lending scenario. So what I'm trying to do with that business, it's very archaic. It's a bit like the insurance industry. It's archaic in the essence that it's a whole lot of individual guys, mums and dads or small businesses, and a lot of
Right.
big businesses in it. They're all buying from the same sort of supplier, and they're all selling to the same sort of people, but they're doing it off their mobile phone or their spreadsheets. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm designing an AI platform that will take all of the information and data from all the historical sales that they've made and all the future sales, and will be able to predict. So I'll go to these small businesses and say, here's the software, we're going to predict what your pricing is, what the flow is going to be, what you paid for it, how long you should store it for, what you could sell it for, and actually build it into the system and then drop it back into the software that actually helps them keep all the accounting and bookkeeping. Because what they don't realise, what I've worked out, is they might be thinking they're making 30 or 40% when they're buying it. But the time they ship it, unpack it, repack it, get rid of the damaged
They're not
product,
accounting for all that, right?
they're not accounting for all of that. And so they're sort of like, it's that one great golf shot at golf that keeps bringing you back, and they're continually churning, but not necessarily making good profit. And so
Interesting. I just met a guy who's doing the same thing in the logistics business. Like, so you're a small company, you want to buy something in China. And right now, to do it, you can't just go. There's not like an Alibaba site where you can have things made in China if you're a small business owner. They've been consolidating on that data using AI. So how did you find this company to buy?
it was just an opportunity through one of the staff that I had. He was friends with this guy, and I talked to him about it. you know, and it's still operating. He's still operating as a small business. Doesn't have the big picture thinking that I have. So
Right.
so the way I'm looking at it is, if I have the AI platform, I can go to the other small businesses, which is an easy sale. It might even be a loss leader. I can then talk to them about aggregating their businesses and bring them all in together, so that buying power.
You're going to roll them up.
Yeah, you call it a roll up. Yeah.
Because it sounds like the software, the AI platform is more like a subscription business, right? I mean, people would subscribe to it to get access to the data, right?
And the data is, because then you're using, you know, 10 people's data on pricing on gloves, and seeing what the movements is across all of those providers. It's so much better for them. And they can also then, you could even go to the hospitals and the government and saying, okay, this is the fluctuation. This is how much, you know, you're going to need to order this, you know, a bit like ordering things for winter, you know, make it almost like the fashion industry, where you're seasons ahead.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like commodities, and you're buying for the future and stuff like that. Interesting.
Correct.
So where's that business located in the U.S.?
In Miami.
And you have to come here sometimes?
Yeah, I come there quite a lot. So I can have Australians have an E3 visa. We can come. Well, I'm not sure if I can get in at the moment. That's all.
That you might get in, they won't let you leave. You don't know. I got clients that said, listen, if I disappear in the middle of the night, you got to tell my wife. I said, are you an illegal immigrant? They go, no, but we're from another country. We don't know what's going to happen.
No, it's a bit, yeah. I think it's sort of.
I think you guys are not really on the radar. Canada's ahead of you right now, so.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I don't know. We're like making friends we're making enemies with all our friends. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's a weird time. It's a weird time. Yeah, we're no different to us. We're the politicians here. The only difference between America and Australia with the politicians is we don't care, and we don't like them. You guys actually, it's like a football team.
Right.
You actually barrack for one team, and that's it. And you die.
Yeah, a lot of people do, right. Especially nowadays. Very divided nowadays, yeah.
Yeah, we hate both sides just as equally.
Right, and if they act crazy, right, and if they're corrupt, that's not a surprise to any of you.
No, but we also have this mentality. They do the wrong thing, they're out straight away.
Yeah, that you're done. Right.
Like, yeah, you're done straight away. And like, one guy lost his job. He'd been in the political, and great guy apparently. I don't know. He used his limo, his company car, to take his dog back to his beach house, and they found out about it. And he lost his job over it.
Yeah, that doesn't happen here
in America.
I know. People do things here like you would never keep a job in the real world, and they keep supporting each other because it's all corruption. It's all corruption.
Nancy Pelosi, the shares that she bought.
Well, you know, that's a rule in the federal government. You can trade on insider information, and it's not illegal. If you're a member of Congress or the Senate, and they've been doing it for years, and people have called for, we got to get rid of this rule, and other people are like, no, we don't want to get rid of this rule. Like, they make money. So if you're head of the Appropriations Committee and you know that, you know, Boeing is getting a huge military grant, you can go buy their stock before, and it's not illegal.
Or if you're canceling a contract on someone.
Right, the whole thing, you can short it. Yeah, it's not illegal. If you and I did it, we'd end up in jail.
Oh, totally.
I know.
End up in jail. And not only that, well, in Australia, I think they have to have blind trusts. So they've got to have.
Some of the states do that. In some of the, like if you're when Bloomberg became the mayor, he had to put his business in the trust. But even if there was a rule, Trump wouldn't do it anyway. He would just say, no. I don't want to do that, you know, because they say it's in his children's name. It's probably not. They said there was a calculation, and it's a low side. This is the minimum, right? That he has profited, which is unheard of for a president, the leader of the free world, by almost $4 billion since he's been president. Yeah. It's just crazy. It's crazy. He just doesn't, he doesn't care. And a lot of people don't care. They're like, oh, no, he's great. He's done some really great things. I mean, I'm much more of a social liberal, like conservative. I'm more conservative financially, but yeah.
Well, I don't have an opinion on it, but definitely not liked around the world.
No, oh my God. Yeah, because you know why? In the past, the U.S. was always the country that said, listen, if things are really that bad, we'll be there. Like, we'll go We'll send people in. If there's a natural disaster, something terrible happens in Australia or wherever, we're the guys who go in, right, with other coalitions. None of that anymore. None of that anymore. Now we take and steal and we want to buy other countries and we're going to piss off our NATO allies. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. And we've got a very, very strong tie to the US. I think we've got the largest naval base.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Army base here.
Right.
With, in the central Australia, you can't go into it. No one's really ever seen it, but apparently it's huge.
Yeah. No, we have strong relations with Australia. Well, I'm waiting for them to piss off Australia. Are there tariffs? I know, well, you don't make anything, so you put it on tariffs don't affect you.
Well, we grow cattle and
okay.
So
you have beef.
That stuff. But
yeah,
no, we don't have
good.
tariffs. We don't have tariffs. In fact, I'm looking at that from the medical supply stuff. So whether I can bring it from China into Australia and send it back.
Yeah, because you pay, and avoid the tariffs that way, because if you bought it in Miami from China, you'd pay. I have a client who makes, I don't have his shirt on today. He's a custom shirt maker, right? Third generation business. So there was this tariff that was affecting the buttons that they would buy for their shirts, right? So he was looking to source it somewhere else. There's no U.S. domestic button manufacturer for shirt buttons in the United States. It doesn't exist. You can't buy it. And it's costing him and he's a small business. He can't buy 50,000 units. He spends $10,000 and he has to pay 10, 20, 30% more, and it affects his business. It's nuts. Yeah, it's crazy.
So we should talk about this little thing.
Yes, please. Yes, talk about NeuroSpicy and what it is and what you're doing with it and all that stuff.
Yeah. So NeuroSpicy, it came out of a sort of an issue that I had with my partner. The roller coaster ride, ups and downs, and she decided she wanted to separate. And it really made me think about the ADHD and the dyslexia and all these things that I've done, which have been really positive, but there's also been a lot of negative, to give an example, that Ollie Recycles business, I did that in the 80s and I sold that business, where recycling and stuff has really only become really fashionable now.
Right.
And if I had hung on to that business, I would have made it into a multinational sort of business,
Right.
And so sometimes it works against you, the dyslexia and that roller coaster ride. And so I, instead of blaming, the world and saying, well, that's, everyone else's fault, I really studied and looked into, the traits of being ADHD and dyslexic. And so we've already talked about the fact is that, 30% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic or ADHD. But 50% of NASA employees are dyslexic. But on the other side of that, and this is where I call it in the book, I call it a superpower, but it's also your kryptonite.
Yeah.
And the kryptonite is the dangerous part of it when it gets a bit out of control.
Yeah.
In the US and Australia, 45% of people incarcerated are dyslexic.
Doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Right. So you grow up in a world of not being able to read and write. You grow up in a world where you're told that you're a failure, that you're not very, very good in the school.
You can't focus. You can't keep a job because you're not patient. Right.
Yeah, you don't socialise properly. You say stupid things. You're illogical in the way you're thinking of stuff. So there's a very, very quick path of becoming on the negative side, which is the kryptonite, or being Albert, a genius.
Right.
And so, and I think but in everyday life, if you think about it, if 30% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic and 50% of people in jail are dyslexic, a lot of the population that we don't hear about, like me and others, are struggling with this every day.
Yeah.
And struggling with just, trying to keep their family together, trying to keep a job, which may be, a really basic job, and not getting into the superpower of it. But that's why I then wrote the book, to cover off both sides, to show that the positives and the negatives are very, very real, and that we need to start thinking about it not as something that's broken and that we can fix, but something is actually should be encouraged and learnt how to use it, especially at a young age. So if you think about it, you're good at sport. What do? You go and do extra sport. If you like music, You go to music practice, band, and drama, and you go off to these special classes. Where's that special class for dyslexic people?
Right.
And I think that's my next sort of forte into business, where I'm going to build a course that teaches the younger generation the superpower and the kryptonite.
Yeah, because you need early intervention.
You need
know,
because of because of the negative feelings that you have, and so you become
Right, it compounds itself. It makes it harder. So now my daughter, the one I told you, she's at the University of Arizona, the one who may come to Australia next year,
Yeah.
she's dyslexic. She's mildly
Right.
dyslexic, but when she was in second grade, we had a teacher who was very smart, came to us and said, there's something off here. Like, she understands everything, but she can't read the book. And her comprehension's like 8th grade. And we got involved very early. We got her tutoring. We took her through exercise. And she gets help in school, whatever. And she's very, very high functioning. She's got mild, but I don't know if it would be mild if it wasn't, if there was an intervention when she was in second grade, a little kid.
Yeah.
And we got lucky because we didn't know.
Yeah, but but even the stigma associated with it, not being able to read and write. I've always
Right.
struggled with that.
You're just stupid. Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, exactly. And how can you not learn to read and write?
Right.
So, I think that's a really, to me, that's probably my, going to be the legacy of taking the book, putting it into a course that then is talking about, the nuances of both the positive superpower and the kryptonite.
Right.
And encouraging them to say, you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed, you don't necessarily need to go on Ritalin
Right.
to fix this, but you do need to understand it. And no different to, why is it that it's okay that a kid can go into music and one kid can read the music and the other kid can play by ear?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, right? And no one thinks anything of that.
No, they just think they're brilliant. Yeah.
Right.
But if you can
So-
enhance the superpower and you can reduce the kryptonite problems, then you can have a
Exactly.
better life, right? More success,
That's
better
right.
relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's not, my wife calls it the roller coaster.
Yeah,
It's,
it is, right?
you calm down the roller coaster, and one of the things that's really, really important for me to do regularly is meditation. Now, you're talking about someone that's got a super fast brain,
Yeah.
and that's the craziest thing you could do. Okay,
Calm
but
your brain. That must be hard to do.
Oh, it's so hard sometimes, but then
Yeah.
sometimes it's really easy.
Yeah.
And so, but it's really important to do it. Whether I might do 10 minutes, and out of that I might get 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, John, I think, and I learned this, I took an abnormal psych course when I was in college, right? I was mostly economics, and I remember the professor told all of us that, listen, while you're studying all these things, abnormal psych is just an exaggeration of normal things. Like, I have the same problem. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about things, but usually I can calm myself. I woke up this morning at 4:30 in the morning, had to go to the bathroom, come back to the bathroom. I don't think I fell asleep. I mean, I felt like I fell asleep, but I don't think I really did. My mind was going. And some people are better at it than others, but I think when you are, when you have those kind of challenges, it exacerbates the problem, right? It amplifies it. He told us, you're going to think that you're developing every disease that we talk about because you're going to be like, oh, I do that. I have trouble concentrating. I'm OCD. But it's when it affects your ability to have good relationships and, when you're on the roller coaster, that's when it becomes a problem. But it's a lot of it is you recognizing, right? That, I mean, at what age did you know that you were dyslexic?
Oh, very early on, probably
Yeah.
grade 3 or 4.
Yeah, and that's probably
I had,
why you were able to be successful, because you were aware of it. You
Well,
know?
the thing is, all I did was just slow down. I didn't do anything. I still left school at 24 and couldn't read and
Yeah,
write.
so it wasn't like, oh, we're going to get John in therapy and we're going to do this for him and special teachers and extra time on tests. Like, I grew up with, when you grew up, I probably was dyslexic. I mean, nobody ever diagnosed me. I was a very slow reader, terrible comprehension. I went to law school because I felt I didn't have good comprehension and I would read more. But there was no they were like, oh, come on, hurry up, finish your book type of thing. There was no special classes or intervention. Nowadays, everyone gets a special teacher. There's co-teachers in every class in the United States. Everyone, it's
But
craziness.
they're still not addressing the key issues of how that brain thinks. They're still trying
sure.
to teach
Right, the
basics
same
of
way.
reading and writing.
Well, because they're
It's the
trying to
same
fix
way.
you and get you back on the path that everybody should be on, and that's not the path. It's not correct.
No, exactly.
Right.
So it's like that music, you know, one person can play by ear, the next person can read it, and that's the way they should be approaching people with dyslexia.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very good friend of mine. She became a client, and she helped my daughter. She runs the Dyslexia Center of Princeton, and she does it's all tutoring and, you know,
Oh, well, okay.
the whole
No, I'd love to
curriculum.
get an introduction to it.
How should it?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
sure.
NeuroSpicy, so you can see it at neurospicy.life.
.life?
Is the web .life.
Okay.
So NeuroSpicy.life. And
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes.
yeah, and they can
Yeah.
just order it there, and it's actually produced in the US, so I think it's like 5 days and it'll be on your doorstep.
All right. Well, and I will definitely introduce you to her. Her name's Meg, and she.
Yeah, that'd be great.
She's great. She's
I'll
great.
send her a copy of the book.
Oh, super. Okay, so you probably have to get your day started. The day's over here, but you probably
Well,
just
with
get.
it Saturday, we're probably off to the gym now, I would suggest.
What is it? About 8:15 there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's 4:15 here. Yeah. Yeah, I was at the gym this morning. Oh, we just lost your microphone. Is it on mute? Let me see. No, it's not mute. Can we get you back? Huh. All right, well, I guess we had to end it here. Somehow we lost the vocal. But either way, we got a great hour. We got all great stuff. And we'll put all those links in the show notes. For the people watching, they can still see you. Can wave goodbye. And right, remember, it's NeuroSpicy, neurospicy.life. We'll put a link in the show notes. Check it out. John's got a great story. And keep following us and tuning in. So thanks, John, for joining me from down under. And I'll look you up if I ever get there visiting my daughter.
In addition to being a podcast host, I'm also a small business attorney, mostly providing legal services in New York and New Jersey. With over 3 decades of experience, we can handle most transactional issues. So if you're watching the show and you encounter some sort of legal issue, reach out to us and visit our website, beinhakerlaw.com. Thanks for tuning into the show and for continuing to support us.